Hi everybody. Unfortunately, the pixels on our presentation aren't exactly showing up to the visual content. But first and foremost, my name is Tim Koch, and I am running for UGBC president this year. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And I'd like to thank the elections committee. They've been extremely helpful throughout this process for really organizing this event. And so I wanted to begin a little bit just with brief introductions about myself and my running mate, Chris Trugs.
Alright, so this is Tim Koch. He comes from Model 1, New Jersey, and he's been involved with UGBC for the past 3 years. His freshman year, he took place with the Mentor Leadership Program. Last year, he was in campus entertainment, and he took the experiences that he learned from that, and it's really helped to work with BC for Boston this year.
And Chris Trugs was an orientation leader this summer. So what does that bring him? That brings him the opportunity and the experiences that come with first-hand experiences with our freshman students. That's absolutely vital to the success of this university. Because if we're not getting students when they come in, how are we ever going to get them at all? Furthermore, he worked with the Office of the Dean of Students, and he is currently the head Eagle Ambassador. And what he hopes to achieve in this position, and what he already has achieved, is improving campus life for juniors who are living off campus. Additionally, he's going to be spending his summer working for Deloitte and Touche, and we'd like to talk a little bit about our platform.
Our platform is based on 5 fundamental pillars: formation, policy, advocacy and outreach, programming, and transparency. And now Tim's going to talk a little bit about formation.
Like I said before, the freshman experience is vital at BC. And so we really want to hone in on maintaining the mentoring relationships that are established through the policy work and the programming experiences that UGBC offers. How do we do this? The first way to implement this is through the UGBC Leadership Academy, which is going to be comprised of 35 ambitious freshmen, and the composition of that organization is going to be reflective of the diversity of this campus, because it is in these diversity of experiences that we as individuals grow, and this is what Boston College stands for in terms of student formation. In addition to that, we want these freshmen to have the same positive experiences that we as upperclassmen have had. So mentorship is absolutely vital in the future of this organization, and that's what UGBC will strive for next year in the UGBC Leadership Academy.
Now, when dealing with policy, we actually went out and we asked a couple students, so what kind of changes do you want to see around BC? Because we figured we should be representative of the student body. And we got a lot of responses about A&S students wanting more minors in CSUN. Now, we actually talked with the Dean of CSUN, and he said the reason for the lack of minors is due to an inflexibility of the A&S administrators. So we would work to make sure that we can bring more minors to A&S students. Just because you're not in CSUN doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to take these classes, get these minors so you can be ready for the job search. It doesn't have to be the corporate world, but you can just be better prepared for life after college. Also, for the theater and culture groups, we want to increase the access to the Rob Sham and Bond studios. Now, we only want to do this when they're vacant. There's no one in them. When you could be having performances, practices, auditions, this would be a really good time to really use up BC as much as we can. If we have the resources available, why not let them be there for them? And also, similar to the Pulse program, how you receive a prepaid T-card, we want to do the same for students in the education school and the nursing school, providing them with a prepaid T-card because they have to go to their practicum for class. It's not optional. Pulse is optional. You can take perspectives or other classes. If you're in these other schools, this is not optional. So we want to compensate them for that, for doing that. And also, similar to the PEP system, the Professor Evaluation Profile System, we want to institute a landlord and realtor evaluation profile system, where students can go talk about specific realtor agencies or specific landlords, because we know during the junior year, they have a lot of issues that could have been addressed their sophomore year and completely avoided them. Also, we want to institute a zip card program on campus, where we have zip cards available for students when they need them, because you can't always access everywhere in Boston or around Boston using the T. And sometimes if you're a sophomore or freshman, you don't know anyone with a car. It's mostly juniors that have cars. So with this zip card program, students would have access to cars when they need them for a short period of time.
Our third pillar is advocacy and outreach. And as Molly had alluded to before, the executives of this year's current administration have worked tremendously, arduously, in order to ensure that the new structure is as incorporating and inclusive as possible. As such, the BC mandate, or mantra rather, for Hear All I Want is going to be the governing principle that our administration adopts. Previous issues that have been addressed by this year's ALC and GLC will no longer be issues that are specific to those representative bodies. They will be UGBC-wide issues, and this is what's most important for the unification of this campus. How are we going to do that? Well, first things first is we need to include the chairs of the GLC and the ALC in the executive council meetings next year. As it currently stands, those chairpersons are not included in those executive council meetings, although they are represented by the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion. In addition, we want to ensure that the proposed dining changes by BC Dining Services that would otherwise inhibit culture clubs from obtaining the most authentic food as possible from being implemented. We want to modify those policy changes by working with BC Dining. As far as GLBTQ issues are concerned, Queer Peers program has been great this year and it has grown. However, we want to consider moving that to an online forum where students can publicly and anonymously consult other students if they need help regarding these matters. In addition to that, there should be an administrator present, and we will oversee to make sure that an administrator in the Office of the Dean of Students office is hired solely for the purpose of dealing with GLBTQ matters. And lastly, we'd love to increase the hiring of AHANA and GLBTQ faculty members and staff.
Now, when looking at programming, this is actually an area where Tim and I have excelled in our time at BC. And going off of advocacy and outreach, we really want to make the ALC Boat Cruise, the ALC Ball, and GLC Gala these hallmark events. We want to make them UGBC-wide. We want students all across the school to be able to enjoy them. And now moving on, we want to petition to get back to the 2 concerts a year. We want the fall concert and the spring concert back, if that's what the students want. We would really listen to the voice of the students, and if they only want mod stock, that's fine. But if they want a spring concert and a mod stock, then if the students want that, that's what we should have. And also, we're looking at moving the fall concert out to Shea Field, making a new tradition called Shea Day. Right now, currently in Conti Forum, you're stuck in your seat, the acoustics aren't great, no offense to anyone from Conti, but it's not an ideal place for a concert. So if we moved out to Shea Field, we could really start a new tradition. Also, we want to, with the success that BC to Boston has had, taking students out of the BC bubble and sending them into Boston, we want to continue to expand that, but also work with Knights on the Heights so that they can get more student involvement out of BC into Boston. And also, we would like to include a formation of a Student Activities Funding Committee to be represented in the Student Assembly. That way, there would be more discussion on where all the student activities fees go.
And finally, our last pillar is transparency. UGBC needs to be more proactive in terms of publicizing the initiatives and work that it is currently doing. The first tangible item we have to address is working with on-campus student-run publications. What we would ideally like to see is a bi-weekly column called Tim and Trugs Talk UGBC. And that's a way of holding ourselves accountable as UGBC president and vice president, and it's a way of ensuring that other students are being informed about everything that is going on internally. In addition to that, the vice presidents of next year's structure are going to be paid. For such a reason, we should be holding them accountable because their funding and their paychecks are coming from the student activities fee, most likely. How do we do that? We encourage them to write letters to the editor, and we hold that as a staple to the position. That's going to increase communication with these student-run publications, and it is also going to allow for an outlet to hold administrators accountable and to have a conversation with the other students so that way we can hold administrators, like I said, accountable for inherent problems at Boston College. Finally, we'd like to produce more video updates. You get a UGBC mass email once every so often. We want to put that on Facebook. We want to be more interactive.
Now, we'd like to thank you all for your time. We'd like to thank the Elections Committee for having us. And if you want to join our team, I know there's a lot of blue, a lot of yellow, a lot of purple, not too many neutral colors. But if you want to, you can send an email over to timandtrugsforUGBC@gmail.com. Thank you.